Hey, dude.
What's up, mate?
Good. I was just prepared for the sun that you were going to bring.
No. I got yeah. I mean, it's still sunny out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
absolutely not sunny here, but yeah, I was just prepared just in case you're blasting that brilliant sun through the screen. I was well prepared. Got the sun cream out and everything.
Sorry, I closed that off back there so you're not blinded.
Well, okay, I'll take these off then. It's safe.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, good. Any problems hearing me or anything? Good.
No, all good, all good. Just
Good.
let me know. This my laptop's a bit naff for audio, so yeah, if you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll shout.
Nope. Sounds good. You ready to get started?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So everybody that's watching, welcome. Dave Laffan from Let's Click Photography. Welcome, Dave. Welcome to Friday
Hi.
Night Behind the Lens.
Glad to be here, Paul. Thank you for having me on.
It's good to have you on. I mean, I've seen you on here a couple times here recently with the UK meetup.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 2 tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, episode 2. Like I said in my little promo, we couldn't solve all the world's problems with one episode. We needed 2. Cool. Well, I think we have a full, 35 minutes or so. So feel free to, as you say, waffle on.
I'll waffle on, Paul. You've seen me on YouTube, yeah.
Hey, I think we've proven if we run out of material, we can find other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, buddy. All right, so let's get started. Question 1. So I guess for those of you who don't know Dave and don't follow Dave, well, you should for one thing. So, go hit that follow button, that subscribe button on all his social media links, and they're all going to be in the description below. For those who don't know you, Dave, where are you from? Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so, I'm over here in Manchester. Well, actually, no, I'm not in Manchester because I live in Trafford, but it's Greater Manchester. I'm from Manchester. And so Manchester, most people will know probably around the world from having 2 of the greatest football teams. I'm talking English soccer, Paul, around. Yep.
Well, at least one, right?
Well, no, these days, I think it's only fair to say that we've got 2, Manchester United Football Club and, Manchester United Women's Football Club.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, 2 big football teams, and there's a smattering of smaller other teams around as well. You probably won't have heard of them, so I won't go into them. And yeah, so I'm in the northwest of England. So kind of a really fantastically placed in the northwest with stuff going on all around me. So yeah, great. That's where I am.
Greatest city in the world, right?
It's the greatest county that has the words Greater and Manchester in it, for sure.
Just far enough out of the city to not be in the madness, but close enough to all the amazing locations that Northwest England has to offer.
That's the one, yeah. So, yeah, very much so. This is where people come to have children. Yeah, the Manchester is where you have fun. This is where you have kids.
Yeah. Well, good. I believe you and Paul Ferrace are the only 2 full-time photographers, the only 2 that I've had on that do this as a full-time profession. So is this what you have always done? Have you always been just a full-time photographer, or was there another career path you had earlier in life that, I don't know, like me, kind of abandoned to start doing this full-time?
Yeah, wow. I've always chased the dream, whether it was trying to become a musician full-time or I've done various things. I've managed to make a bit of money out of hobbies in the past, in my younger years. But yeah, my main career path was in hospitality. So before I left to do this, I was running hotels for a couple of big companies. And yeah, I did that for a long time. And I fell into it. I went in my early 20s, tried to leave a couple of times, never quite managed it properly. And yeah, just never, I got to a point where I turned 40 and I thought, right, is this really what I want to be doing? Because I've been saying that it's not for a long time. And, it was now or never. So left to pursue this. But it was planned for a couple of years. I did 2 jobs for 2 years. Yeah, 2017, I started doing semi-pro kind of photography work. So I was working, 12 hours in the hospitality trade and then coming and doing 3 or 4 hour shoots for commercial photography, weekends at weddings and stuff like that to get a grounding and to get cracking. So yeah, it was a graft to get here, but 2019, halfway through, I finally went, right, okay, well, I've got enough traction now. Let's do this.
Yeah. Did you have any trepidations about leaving something that was kind of secure in your past?
Oh yeah,
Probably full with good salary, benefits. Well, I guess your benefits there are probably not the same as ours here, but
oh, it was decent. Yeah, it was. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. I wasn't fearful of it. I was very fearful of it. I've got 2 young kids. I've got a wife. I need to support them all and support myself. And yeah, leaving something that was monthly and was guaranteed, and that because I'd worked myself up through the ranks and I was where I was, it was decent benefits, had a bonus scheme and all that kind of stuff. So deciding to go, yeah, that's me, and come and do this when, quite literally, other than the money that I'd put aside to kind of just in case money for the 6 months to kind of go, all right, I can live if nothing comes in, and a half full diary for the next 6 weeks. It was, so it was scary and continues to be, and that's basically, I suppose, what keeps me on my toes with it. Is never, doing this gig until you get into the realms of contract shooting with some of the big corporates. It's never safe money. It's never, you're never guaranteed. But I work a lot. I knew from the start that I was going to have to spread myself quite thinly, and that's what I've done, and it's paid off ish.
Yeah. It sounds like from what you're saying, though, it you worked extra hard, all hours of the day to build up a little bit of a nest egg, a little bit of traction going, just to make sure you were stable once you left the hospitality industry. Did you set yourself a timeline, though, for like I watched interviews with several photographers who said they've given themselves a year, maybe a year and a half, and if they weren't able to make it, then they would go back to what they were doing. Did you ever set yourself some kind of timeline like that, or was it just full steam ahead, not going back?
Not really. Funnily enough, on the day that I put my notice in, so I had to work, because of the contract I was on, I had to work a 4-month notice period with my last employer. And the day I put my notice in, we had a photographer in. So I've got a photographer in to come and do some work. Now I was they knew, everybody around there knew that I was going to be a photographer. I was very careful at no point to ever do any free shoots for the place that I worked. That's what I did. So when there was a need for a photographer, I hired in. And so this guy come in, and we got to chatting, and I asked him how he'd found it, and all of the kind of stuff, how did you get into it? What did it entail? And he basically said, just put your mind to the fact that you're probably going to live on beans on toast for the next year. Yep. And I was like, oh, thanks. That's good news. And he was, he basically said, after the first year, you'll start to get traction. And I very much took that as a challenge. I'm not waiting a year for that to happen. That's not. I ain't gonna wait a year. I'm gonna make sure this is from the off. So, those. Even though I've been doing, a secondary job for all of that period of time before I was leaving, trust me, those last 4 months, my attention was definitely elsewhere.
Sure.
So it was graft, and I'd say that to anybody. In fact, I did recently. Somebody said you can't be a photographer because the market's too saturated, and they went, no, if that's the way you feel, there's so much work out there, but unless you're willing to battle and to be better than the person who you're up against at doing it, and to be more detailed and more in depth and more, passionate about what you're doing, then it's too saturated. But I tell you what, the people who are doing that, it is not saturated for. And so there's work out there for sure.
You just gotta get knocked down. You gotta keep pushing forward. That's
completely.
Those are the people that are gonna make it. And okay, so you left. And by the way, you and I could probably have a whole separate episode on just the hospitality industry. I don't think that's going to happen because that gives me anxiety. That's not going to happen. So you left basically a hospitality job plus moonlighting, doing jobs to stock up and store up for the eventual departure from the hospitality industry, which leads me into my next question. I was reading on your website. Now you're running at least three different businesses under your photography umbrella. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, he's moving to four, if if I'm truthful. But yeah, so the umbrella, and that comes from it comes from a market requirement. Sorry, did you finish your question, by the way?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that stems from a market requirement quite early on. Actually, it was through doing landscape photography that I decided that I needed to branch it quite separately, because I'd been doing some commercial work for a restaurant owner, and all of a sudden it kind of stopped, and no feedback whatsoever. And then I saw they've got some new shots done of a new menu, and I was a bit like, that's odd. I've been doing this work for a couple of years and never said anything. Right. So when it was passing there, so I'll just go in, see how he is. And so went in there, hey Dave, how you doing? Blah blah blah. Have this conversation, and I said, oh, I see you got some new shots done. He said, yeah. Well, I knew that I needed to get somebody else, because you're just a landscape photographer now, aren't you? And I said, why'd you get that impression? And he said, well, because that's all that's on your Instagram. And I went, clink, and it suddenly occurred to me that that's what people are flicking through, and actually they were going to my website at the time, and I devoted my entire website, that one website that I had back then, to weddings. And so actually people were like, well, this guy doesn't do it anymore. So from that moment onwards, I was like, well, I need to separate the businesses. So I did. I had the umbrella, which was, at the time, it was Bamba Photos. That was kind of the header, and split it up. It's now Bamba Photography and Film, because moved into the film side of the business. Yep. And so Bamba Photography and Film. David Laffan Photography is the next one that is coming out. Let's Click Photography, which is the landscape stuff that you'll know of, and Bamba Photos, and all of those four things are split in a niche. So I can keep the commercial work completely separate to the landscape work. And that I find, in terms of customers, is much better, because if they're looking to see if somebody can do some commercial shoots for them, they don't want to plow through 40 landscape photos to find out whether or not they've got any good commercial shots in there. So yeah, that was quite a big lesson early on, really, which is why I split it up and now run it the way that I do.
So you're doing your landscape and workshops, and then you do like kind of weddings and events. Is that correct? And then your kind of commercial and food shoots. Yeah.
So the Bamba Photography and Film is very commercial based. So lots of property photography, food photography. There's a huge market for food photography in the UK. The Meet the Team stuff, portfolio stuff. I do quite a bit of LinkedIn kind of work on there for headshots and shots, team shots and stuff.
Yep.
For that, Bamba Photos is kind of still the dedicated wedding stuff that is going on. Let's Click is the print sales, is the workshops that go with that. Have I covered all of them? Yeah, I think so. And then and David Laffan Photography, which is coming up soon, is actually aimed at a new market, which I'm just kind of moving into, which is kind of family portraits, and that kind of, I'm putting my name on it, just gives it, I think it will, the corporate stuff needed to have a corporate name. Nobody, the people who I'm shooting with want to feel that there's a backup. So they don't want to know that it's just me, a one-man band. So Bamba Photography and Film sounds bigger.
Sure.
When somebody's booking you as a personal photographer, a family portrait, they want to know that the person that they're speaking to is the person who's doing it. So that's where, that just little subtle branding changes, I think, will do help.
So what about over there? I don't know how it works. How like school photos, like yearly photos? Are you involved with anything like that? Because it's hard to break into that here because a lot of the schools have contracts with these, big photography firms out there that personally I think are horrendous. Just absolutely boring, no personality to their photos at all.
Yeah.
Just a drop screen behind them, the different colors and fake backgrounds and stuff. Is there any market for you to get into things like that as you move into like the family portraits and stuff too?
Yeah, well, actually, that's how it's kind of moved me a little bit. So there's a big company over here, certainly in Northwest region, called Tempest Photography, who do all of those kind of shoots, and they're all very samey, and they go around all of the schools. And they've got one straight on shot and one Dutch angle shot, and it's the same across the board. The fake blurry background and stuff like that. And this year, because of COVID, schools weren't allowed to do kind of the family shots. So normally, I mean, with my two kids, so they go to the same school, but they're in different school years. They would take them together for the school photos so that you would have a shot of the pair of them together and then an individual shot of them. And they weren't offering it this year because they've got these bubbles in school to separate all the kids, and they're not allowed out of the bubbles. So, straight away I was like, right, okay, well, there's a market, and we literally live 5 minutes from the school. So I put together an outdoor socially distanced studio it was sheltered, all of a sudden I was doing, I'd say they were lying down the street. It wasn't like that because we made sure that we scheduled them properly. But all of a sudden we did lots and lots of people, and the great thing was that we got like half a dozen booked in, and then I made a point of taking the photos with us to school to give to the parents in a see-through kind of cellophane thing with a couple of cards in it, and the photos on both sides pointing out that they bought, and it was like, yeah, if people see them, I think they'll want to buy, want to come, and that's exactly what happened. So all of these other parents then went and started, people like, where did you get those from? Handing out cards, and away we go. So yeah, it's one of those things, and it goes back to what I was saying before, in that if you just sit on your thumbs and do nothing, it doesn't come to you. You have to go, how do I get this? How do I move this forward? How do I do this? And so that was just one opportunity. And then through that, I've suddenly got a whole swathe. And now I'm doing Christmas shoots. So I just put delivery today of my my Christmas backdrop, and that'll be going into the outdoor studio to do through December.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's great that people actually came to you even through the whole COVID crisis. That's ingenuity right there. That's I guess that's pushing forward, and that's you're breaking down the barriers that are set in front of you to keep going.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think it's tough on photographers at the moment, especially those who are working out of a studio, because a lot of the studio photographers I know in my local area their buildings have been closed. So it's not even like they're choosing to shut their business, but their buildings have been closed. So they're not allowed to be trading from in there. And, so the market, all of a sudden, people still want this stuff doing, but they want to be able to do it in an area that fits in with all of the remit. And I can provide an outdoor area, and I'm shooting everything, all my portraits through the 70-200, so that I can be, make sure that I've got good social distance, and it's the little things as well, like my camera comes off the tripod and I go inside whilst they come up the drive, there's hand wipes and there's all that kind of stuff. So it's, all of a sudden people feel safe and they feel secure, and and I'm not really going near the families at all, and that gets passed on. Oh, well, you can go to this guy because he's got it nailed. So it's just finding the answer. Here's a challenge. How do you find the answer? And that's basically all I try to do with it.
Okay, so I don't want to talk. I know we talk about COVID a lot, but I don't want to have it consume the whole interview. But because you do have such an all-encompassing kind of business going on, how, if you feel comfortable talking about it, how has it affected your business overall through these, since March?
In March, everything moved And then there's a real difference for me between the two kind of lockdowns that we have. In March, everything moved. Everybody didn't know how long it was going to last, didn't know what was going to go on. So it was almost just like, took a lot of phone calls. Everything moved out of March, but it was, let's put it into next month, and then next month it didn't open up, so it moved into May, and so everybody just kind of moved back. So I did lose a few things, that quite a few of the weddings that I had moved into next year. So again, it's still business on the books. And then when we came out of lockdown, wow, my diary was full because of all of this business that had just pushed back, and all of them were cramming them because so many restaurants had changed the menu with the summer season coming in. Everybody all of a sudden was doing takeout because that was the available way to sell. So everybody needed images. So I was busy, which was great for me. And that lasted June. I think it was June, July, August, which I was expecting to be a quiet time, but August. And then, but this time, that's not happened. This time it was cancellations. People were just they couldn't afford to do it. They were like, any money that we've got now is trying to make sure our business can reopen, and so I don't expect to really work other than the portrait stuff I was just saying about. I don't expect to get any commercial work now until the new year. That has gone, and I don't think it will be back in December, because a lot of the shoots that I was booked in to do this month were all Christmas deals, Christmas meals. It was I do a lot of social media work for local restaurants, and they all wanted images of their Christmas menus to be plowing out on social media. And of course, it's no good to them on the 3rd, 4th, 5th of December, and I'm getting them back on the 10th of December. So yeah, so that's all gone. So my expectation is that it will be January, which this year was quiet the first couple of weeks of January anyway. So yeah, back in the January towards February, before the bulk of my work starts to come in again.
Go ahead.
No. Well, I was going to say, and that's if it does, because the hospitality industry has been hit so hard over here with all of the restrictions, that I'm not kidding you. I was, as I drive around and I see places where I shot maybe a month ago, and they've got for sale signs on them, and to let, and the sign's been torn down. So yeah, it's a tough situation. But as a photographer, thing for me was, right, okay, well, if that doesn't come back, how do I make this? How do I continue this? So that's the challenge.
It seems like your two lockdowns have taken on, I don't know, different forms. Like your first lockdown, if I remember right, was very restrictive, but it was kind of open-ended, where there wasn't really an end date. Was that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I don't think that anybody, I don't even think Boris Johnson thought it would last as long as it did last. And that's so because there wasn't an end in sight. Initially, I mean, when it was announced, I think the general consensus was this is 2 weeks. And then, it was 2 more weeks, and then it was another month. And then, well, I'm just shy of 3 months in the end. Or was it around 3 months? This time there's a definite end, or it seems that way, as it stands at the moment. But
they're still hurting from the first one, and
yeah, but that's it. Yeah, exactly.
And maybe some limited restrictions over the summer too. They haven't, they're not, by no means have they rebounded. And now you got a lockdown that has a definite end date, but they're still recovering from the last 6 months. Plus, in relation to Christmas, people have, just seem like they would have less money to spend on photography related things.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It's a luxury. It is, some of the phone calls that I had from really good customers and really good clients were basically around that, where that, we don't want to not have you, but we can't afford it. It can't be done. We have to pay staff wages, and we have to pay the rates. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to take shots on our iPhone, and that's just where it is. So, like I say, it's a challenge, it's a hurdle, but I will overcome it.
We have no doubt at all. All right, let's get rid of this COVID thing. Let's move past that. So let's talk about your days pre-COVID. Give us a sense of what a full-time photographer that has an umbrella of 3 different companies, what your day looks like from start to finish.
So generally, I'm pretty much up and at it, which is one of the pains of working at home. Is you're at work already, and so yeah, I'm basically up and at it. So I would shoot normally 3 days a week. That would be, I would fill 3 days of the week. I would keep so basically 7 till kind of 9, 9:15 would be emails, admin, kiss the kids and get them off to school. But like I say, I'm only a couple of minutes away, so I try and do that at least once or twice a week, and then back, get the gear ready into the car, and off to the first shoot. And a lot of the work that I would book would be kind of half day work, so kind of 3-hour jobs. And so I'd book one for the morning, one for the afternoon, and then one for the evening, and come back, start doing the images, send off as necessary, go again the next day, and any of the bigger jobs, then on that 4th day I do their images on that 4th day, which is still a fairly quick turnaround time, and all of the admin. And then on the 5th day I would try and do some landscape photography.
Are you completely standalone? Is it just you? You're a one-man band, or is your wife involved, or does she have a totally separate job?
No, she is now. So pre-COVID, she wasn't. She worked, but that went. So I was like, well, do you know what? I need some of this stuff doing. There's no jobs around at the moment anyway.
Right.
Let's get you involved in this. So Hannah now handles all of my commercial calls. So any kind of bookings, she basically manages the diary in terms of the commercial bookings, because the commercial bookings are quite easy to do. There's no real price changes. The price seen is the price that it is. I book for extra hours and you pay an extra block. So there's no real kind of need for any real conversation. So she doesn't really do the wedding stuff because they're expecting to speak to me. So if those calls are coming in, they come in to me. But all of the commercial stuff she handles the calls for now,
okay,
which is a huge help.
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. So on top of your umbrella of 3 different companies, soon to be a 4th, about a little over a year ago, you decided it might be a good idea to do a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Where do you think you're finding all this time?
Well,
you run on a 36-hour clock there instead of 24.
Yeah, it's what's great about Manchester. Well, actually, so it was I wasn't doing YouTube. That wasn't the idea. And I know, I've heard a few people say that in the past. But honest to goodness, it was part of the long-term plan. So I knew I wanted to do a landscape photography side of the business. And also I knew that with all of the commercial, so when I first started, it was just all commercial work, and then, weddings at weekends. But I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't getting out. I wasn't exercising. It was shoot to shoot to shoot to shoot, being offered food 4 times a day from various commercial
benefit, yeah, or
the going to weddings and being given a load of food, and so but I need to find space and time that is also contributing to work to get out and to go out. And the workshops was something that I decided quite early on that I was going to do and going to run, and it was very much because of those 2 points. So I started to get a bit more specific with my landscape, and it used to go into the diary once a week, and it would be whatever day I didn't have bookings on, but once a week, it would landscape day. That's what it was written in my diary as. And as I was going out and doing these, when I was talking about workshops, and I spoke to you know, a peer locally who does workshops. And I said, you know, how do you go about it? What do you do? And he said, well, you know, you're talking through your thought process and your compositions, and then try to give them hints and tips for how the camera works. And that was how he did it. And I was like, I don't have thoughts. You know, I couldn't possibly talk about what it was that I was shooting, because I was like, what do you mean my composition? It's just this, you know, leading lines. What are you on about? And that was because that wasn't how I shot. It wasn't how I saw things. I never really visualized it like that. And it was he who suggested, go and take a camera and film yourself and talk to the camera. Now at this point, and I'm not kidding you at all with this, I thought YouTube was music videos. Like that was it. Music videos, gaming, and videos of cats. Right. So that was my experience. And it was through another job. So I've been doing this, I've been going out. And I think I said on our meetup chat the other week, you know, I've got 20 odd vlogs that never went out. A lot of those were from this time where I was just taking a camera out and talking about composition and how I was shooting, and then watching it back and asking the questions, how does that translate if I was talking to somebody else? What does that sound like? You know, how can I get better at delivering this tutorial bit? And I did a job for a gym. I was photographing a gymnasium, and some lifestyle shots, and there was quite a lot of files, and I sent them via an app called WeTransfer. And on WeTransfer, when you send your photos across, they've got like this holding page whilst it uploads the images. And on this holding page was an advert for or a kind of read through bio of a guy called Adam I think it's Carnash, First Man Photography.
Big guy.
Yeah, big, yeah. A bit ginger, I think, and you'll have seen him. I'm sure he's pretty big.
Yeah, he used to be a cop, I think.
That's him. Yeah.
That's the one.
So that's the guy. So it was about water drop photography, and so I'd read this whilst I was waiting for these files to upload. I was reading this water drop photography, and anyway, at the bottom it had his name, and it said filmmaker. Click here to visit. So I went through, and I'm not kidding you, that was the first landscape photography vlog that I had ever watched, and this was probably August last year. I'd never seen one before that, and then watching him, I discovered a guy called Gary Goff, and he's another UK pretty big vlogger, and a guy called Paul. Yeah, a guy called Paul G. Johnson. And then those three were kind of like a little crew together. Yeah, so I'd watched those three guys, and I thought, I've got a YouTube channel, because many years ago in a former life, I'd uploaded a couple of music videos for songs that I'd written on there. And I'm talking a long time ago, you know, 2008 or something. And that's why my channel for a long time has had a terrible name. And I've only just been able to claim my Let's Click URL. So I was like, I've got a couple of these vlogs. If I just do a bit of, I'm doing this anyway. So if I just do a bit of B-roll, I'll put it on there. And again, it wasn't really about anything other than, I think the point when you put stuff onto YouTube, you want people to watch. Yeah, and I know there's people who will say, oh, you know, don't expect people to watch. Just keep it on the computer if that was the case. You know, I wanted people to watch, but it wasn't like I want to build this into a thing. I thought I put a couple of these on here, and then when I'm selling workshops and when I can say, oh, well, you can look at these.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Of the day, and so that's what it was. And at the time I thought I was doing a great job. I was like, wow, these are amazing. I'm so, you know, it's so intellectual. Look at me speaking so clearly. And then I've watched them back, and yeah, I'm not sure what I was doing whatsoever. But and again, quite honestly, when I did those first load of vlogs before I was putting them onto YouTube, those were the first time I'd ever switched my DSLR over to video mode. I'd only ever been in photography mode before that.
Yep.
Never been in video mode. And then yeah, so it started there. Like I say, it wasn't a case of I'm going to start a YouTube channel. It just kind of happened a little bit like that, and then I enjoyed it. So
I thought I'd seen all of your videos. I'm a big fan. When I was doing a little bit of research for this interview, I went back and looked through all the videos, and there was one that I hadn't seen, and that was the very first one. And that was called A Trip to Crosby, which is Crosby Beach for the people that don't know. It's just north of Liverpool, right? And it's got a art installation by Anthony Gromley, I believe. Gromley.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of iron men that are sunk down into the sand, and then the tide kind of moves in and out. And sometimes they get covered, and sometimes they're, waist deep. And I've been there 3 times now, and it's the most fascinating beach I've ever been to in my life. And I live around beaches, so it's amazing. But the subtitle was with A Trip to Crosby with No Stills and Nash. So right there, I mean, you kind of introduced that you were going to put a little bit of humor into all of your in your vlogs, and you've kind of continued that. I think throughout most of your vlogs. I was going to show the video, but I've kind of had some problems running. It's kind of choppy on this Zoom thing. But I do encourage everybody to go to Dave's videos, go all the way down to the bottom and search that one out, because it shows the beginnings, right? I mean, I'm embarrassed for anybody to see mine, but I think it was I think it's a good video because it does show you had 2 or 3 other paid shoots that day.
Yeah.
And then you were also going to go out and do this vlog at Crosby Beach, and I think you stopped off at a like a power plant there, close to Warrington. So it just kind of shows a full day in the life of a photographer.
Well, that was So that basically was born out of the fact that I had a job in St. Helens in the morning, a couple of hours shoot in St. Helens in the morning, and I had an evening shoot in St. Helens. And I was like, I'm not coming back home. What should I do tomorrow? And I thought, you know what, I'll go along to Crosby Beach. I've not been there yet. And so I decided that, well, I had like 5 hours to kill. And I thought, I'm going to try and do a bit of B-roll on this one. And, so that was the first real one where I suppose I tried to tell a story in it, because everything before that was just me talking to the camera. It was very much, and I'm taking this because this is the line. I'm taking this because, and this is the aperture that I'm shooting with. But that was the first one where I tried to be a little bit more, other people might watch this. So, let's try and do something. And the funny thing is that, and again, this is coming from 0 YouTube experience whatsoever. I put that in the No Stills and Nash because I thought it's a good play on words, bit of humor. That'll be great. And what happened was, I thought, wow, this has gone well. I had something like 70 views on it. I was expecting to get 4. 3 of those would be by my mum, and I had 70 views on it. And then it was only a little bit later that I realized that everybody had switched off after 5 seconds when they realized it wasn't a Crosby, Stills and Nash video. Very, very unintentionally, I'd put out clickbait.
That was your first introduction to like keywording and what to write in your description and how to get views.
Yeah, if only I'd realized it at the time, right? I had no idea whatsoever. I mean, yeah, but it's still up there, and it's exactly what you said. It is a little bit embarrassing. I actually, when you said that you were gonna look at that one, I went and had a rewatch, which isn't something that I normally do, and I was like, oh wow. And you mentioned those chimneys. Yeah, I spent 7 minutes talking about chimneys. I don't know what I was doing, but it's okay. And the thing is that I could take it down, but that wouldn't be the right thing to do, because I think if anybody was to watch what I do now, and I think it's good to know that that's not where everybody starts. That's not how it is. That camera was all over the place. I don't even think I think I was pointing at something over my shoulder half the time I was talking.
I know you didn't like the photos that you took of the chimneys there that day, but you did get a couple good ones down at Crosby that day.
Yeah. Do they were
Which
was
goes to the
first-
point that it's always about the photography first, in my opinion.
It is, yeah, it is. And I think that's, but I don't know whether you find this as well. I certainly do. And I know I spoke to other YouTubers who say the same thing. It hurts my photography somewhat doing YouTube, because you know, if I'm going out and shooting, to be able to concentrate on what you're doing and what you're taking, but then you've got this camera there that also needs your attention, and that's a very different beast. And I think I remarked to Andrew Hamilton, who was on this show a couple of weeks ago. You know, he'd mentioned something in his video, and I popped a comment on there saying, yeah, do you know what the difficulty is that you're the producer, you're the director, you're the host, you're the talent, you're the scriptwriter, you're the processor, you're all of those things, and all of those things surround the fact that you're trying to be a photographer, and it's, you know, it's tough. It's a tough act to balance. I'm sure you find that as well.
Oh, it's I've tried to do a bunch of different ways, and now I find myself, I want to get the shot first. The vlog, if anything's going to suffer, the vlog's going to suffer, and if that costs me viewers, then so be it. I'm a photographer first and a vlogger second, you know. But to me, I don't want to watch somebody's vlog and get to the end and the photos not be any good. The same way, you know, when I think about people watching my vlog, you know, I want them to know that when they get to the end, or when they see a picture come up on the screen, that's going to be a good shot.
I mean, that's the build-up, isn't it? You're building up to the fact that you got this shot.
Yeah. And
if you talking through about how great your composition is, and look at me, I know all my camera settings, and wow, this is going to be brilliant, and then you put something naff on screen, wow, it's a letdown, isn't it? And
yeah.
So I've always thought the same thing, is that a vlog has to have at least one good shot. And I must admit that my last vlog wasn't really for me, and it was the first time that I put something out where I was like, I'm entirely sure about these shots. You know, they probably never see the light of day anywhere else. So I try and make it a little bit more about a location and less so. But I'm very critical of myself anyway. I never think my shots are any good.
So, well, I think they're fantastic. Otherwise, I wouldn't watch it. The way I watch a photography vlog is, I'm not watching for how well you vlog. I'm not watching, you know, I'm watching for your location. You know, where you go interests me, you know, because if I take a trip there, because I do often, you know, I want to know. But, you know, watching the guys over in Australia, you know, I kind of had a preconceived notion in my head what Australia looked like. And it was really just all beaches and outback. But the more I watch them, wow, they have rainforests, they have, you know, woodlands and stuff like that. I'm watching for their surroundings. I'm, you know, thinking, you know, I can picture myself in their setting, you know, taking photos there. And I often do that. Like I'll look at the location that you're at and think, oh, there's a composition right there. Don't walk past it.
Yeah, I do that. Look behind you.
But yeah. I mean, I can get past somebody's, you know, vlogging skills, you know, if they're not great, because God knows mine aren't. But hopefully I'm taking you to a location that's, you know, interesting or beautiful. And like I said, like we both said, you know, produce a quality shot at the end. That's what I'm waiting for. That's all that really interests me.
It's a photography show, isn't it? It's a photography vlog, you know, so you've got to have a good piece of photography on there.
And I don't watch any of you to learn how to use my own camera. I may learn something along the lines, but that's like the last thing that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do that, I'm going to go search out a tutorial specifically on, you know, that technique or that camera setting. But when I'm watching a landscape photography vlog, I'm looking for the surrounding area and ultimately the shot at the end.
Yeah, but I'm with you, and I go through fits and spats of whether I'm including settings. I don't necessarily know that they, you know, you don't put settings in, and people go, well, why aren't you putting your settings in there? But then for me, I kind of look at it like, well, if a beginner's watching this, they potentially think that those are the exact settings that they should use. But
yes,
those are the settings for that shot in that weather condition, in that light. It's not. So I'm not entirely sure sometimes how helpful that is.
Or you get the comments from the know-it-all people out there, and there are a lot of them, who, you know, why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you use this setting? Why didn't you use this filter? I don't care. Honestly, I don't care what you use. as long as it works for you and the way I do it, if it works for me, that's all that matters. So, you know, like when I'm doing my vlogs, I try to focus less on, oh, this is my setting, you know, whatever. You know, I just want to show you my location, what the, you know, maybe the weather around me, what I'm going through, what it takes to put a vlog together, and then ultimately the shot. And you could put yourself in that similar situation. Your settings may be 100% different.
Yeah, completely. And that's where I think, is it helpful or is it not helpful? And yeah, look, I'm with you. I watch the people who I watch because of where they are, not necessarily because I'm going to learn that F-16s are great apertures for shooting landscapes. You know, I know that stuff. That's not. And so, yeah, there is a bit of me in it, and I think it's about, for me, probably deciding exactly what my channel is, and that's why I'm trying to, you'll see me, I'll try and split it up a little bit with the more kind of chat through kind of stuff being filmed here, and then being out and about, trying to be a bit more about the location itself.
So before we go on, I read last night, and I didn't know this, that Zoom, if you're just doing 2 people, you don't have a time limit.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're at, I didn't know that. So we're at 48 minutes right now. You okay to go just a little bit longer?
Yeah, you know me, Paul. I'll chat all night.
Well, you know, we might have to split this this one up into 2 episodes too, because my upload time, it'll be like 15 hours to upload this over here.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Friday Night Behind the Lens. Sorry about the abrupt ending. If you made it this far, you are an absolute legend. Join us at the same time next week, 3 p.m. in the USA, 8 p.m. in the UK, as we continue the second part of this great interview with Dave. All right, until next week, everybody. We'll see you then. Bye.